Okay, so hi, I am Halise Bridges, the founder of Blue Ribbons Worldwide, and most people call me Grandma Sparky. Our mission is to unite humanity through the power of love. And basically, we do this in a simple tool that's with a blue ribbon that says, "Who I am makes a difference." 40 years ago, I began to notice that maybe people needed to be loved like me. Everybody seemed to be pointing at what wasn't working and punishing people and blaming and shaming and all that. And I thought, well, what about if we pointed to what we love about each other and honored each other? And so the ceremony that I created caught on. It's reached over 50 million people now around the world, translated in 12 languages. And we're going for 1 billion people. And how we're doing this, and I'm going to be introducing you to our Blue Ribbon Ambassador, graduate of Standing Strong Together, community building leadership training, teaching humanity how to love. And we're creating a replicatable, scalable, sustainable model with leaders of leaders, youth and adults coming together. And I want to introduce you to an incredible friend, colleague, mentor to me, divine human soul. And it's Katherine Sellery, Katherine Winter Sellery. Yes. And
both work.
Yes. And you are in Denver, Colorado. Yes, Denver, Colorado. And I'm gonna read your bio, and then we're gonna talk and embrace each other's your gifts that you give the world, so that we can learn from you. So here's the thing. The thing about, I'm going to read off of the bio, even though I know Katherine pretty good. So Katherine Sellery, or Katherine Winter Sellery, is the CEO and founder of Conscious Parenting Revolution. Conscious Parenting Revolution. Oh my God. And she's helping individuals minimize misunderstandings and meltdowns in order to communicate with more collaboration, cooperation, and consideration. Now that takes a long time to come up with those words to say it that sweetly, but basically her gift is that she has the inner game, the inside out. She knows and can see me and all of us who are listening to her, because the gift that she has a guidance approach to parenting. And I listen to your what you call it when it comes in through the email, your little,
my blogs.
Yeah, that. And okay, I'm learning so much about what happens when kids get out of control, what happens if they can't go to bed, what happens when you have an argument, and you have an answer for every one of these things. But the point is, it's like, yeah, I have that problem, but who do I go to? Without it all being too confusing. Because this is what you do is presence people to tell the truth about what's happening, and how our communication, your communication style that you teach us, just allows everybody to hear each other and understand each other. Yes. And have and what we all do is with your coaching is to fall into that positivity paradigm, where we just fall in love with ourselves and each other. This is a beautiful tapestry that you gift us. And also we're going to talk about your 7 strategies to keep your relationships with your kids from hitting and the boiling point. I got to say something before I'm going to ask you this great question, because it brings up something right now. And that is, for those that are listening, you might be an entrepreneur, a mom, a dad, a husband, a wife, or whatever you are, a brother, a sister. You might be at the beginning of your business career, wanting to be whatever you do with your job. You might be a leader of leaders, an influencer. But for all of us, I think we're always learning something that we might have heard a lot of times before, but this is the moment where we go, oh, this is what I need. And what you just brought to me is that when my first boy was about 6 months, a year old or something, they had they had this commercial on television called "Do you have an Excedrin headache?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to beat my kid, beat my kid, and I went. I got to walk out the door, but I have to put him in the playpen, walk out the door, take some 10 deep breaths, and come back in and take 2 Excedrin. The commercial worked. What can I say? But nowadays, you have a gift. And I want to ask you that. What do you think? You said, what are the beliefs about children and their behavior? Would you like to share with all of us so we have a better sense?
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great segue point. What do we believe about children, and what do we believe about children's behaviors?
Yes.
And that is the quintessential question, because if we can answer the question, then we can make decisions about how we want to actually parent.
Yes.
So it is that tuning into, well, what do I believe about their behaviors? Are their behaviors demonstrations of them being naughty, misbehaving,
Yes.
mean, inconsiderate, defiant, rebellious? And if we use those kinds of words to describe children's behavior,
yes,
and what we think about children is that there's something about them that is, negative.
yes.
And we don't have a neutral perspective on them. We actually are seeing through a lens. And after we see through that lens, we then have that perspective which justifies what we do next.
So let me just say something about that, because children grow up to be adults and parents and business people and workers or whatever. But we underline whatever has been said to us as we grow up, we take that on.
Yes.
You're not enough. And what society says about that, about young people, we don't even, it's very subtle. We grow up and all we're doing is duplicating the same conversation to our kids. I can't control you, you're out of, whatever. And I think that you hit on something so lovely, and that is the minute you acknowledge it and can see it.
Yes.
Because we can't, it's very invisible before you bring it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's unconscious.
It's very unconscious. And then it creates, and you say this, it says, so it causes a disruptive behaviors in young people as well as adults. Yes, speak more about that.
Yes. So, I mean, if we just take that one idea that we started with, which is that we no longer assume these words describe the situation.
Yes.
And we understand, Krishnamurti said, observation without evaluation is the highest form of human intelligence. Yeah. So everything I just got done, that script, every one of those words was my evaluation of what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. So if I strip the words away, then maybe I'm able to just be the observer. We talk about that a lot in meditation. We talk about that a lot in mindfulness. We talk about this ability to be centered as the observer, just looking out, going, oh, I saw him take something out of someone else's hand.
Yeah. And, so I want to take a pause for a second, because for those that may hear the words mindfulness or meditation or pausing, I will say that when that first came to me, I went, sit down and just breathe when I have so much to do. I got laundry, I've got my kids to pick up, I've got my, got to get them to the dentist. I mean, I was like, what, are you going to put me in a straitjacket, sitting me down? And I went, ain't no way to do that. Right.
Right.
Except that I got groomed to start with 2 minutes. And that had me screaming in my chair until all of a sudden I thought, well, no. So tell us more a little bit about that pause, if you will.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So getting bigger than what's bugging you is kind of the easiest way to put it.
Okay.
What does it mean to get bigger than what's bugging you?
Mm.
It's that sense of spaciousness and expansiveness, that sense of tuning into self is something more than that strong emotion right here in this, in this moment, right? But if we're unable to do that bigger sense of self, then all we really do is merge with that strong emotion. And we just get so focused on what's wrong. It's kind of what you started with. Right. We get so focused on what's wrong that we have no capacity to have a bigger context around it, to be present to, yeah, there's something here, it's really bugging me. And I want to pay attention to it like it's a sign on a road telling me like something about the terrain around me. There's like these warning signs on the road, right? Right. Falling rocks, or, watch out for wildlife, like they could pop into the middle of the road. So that's what the feelings are. They're a warning sign. They're just there on the side of the road. And basically they're saying, oh, right here, look here, look here. And there's something about that. If I look in that direction, it's leading me somewhere, we say, to the underlying unmet needs. So it's leading me down to understanding needs of mine are not being met, which are giving rise to the strong emotion. And then it's what we do with it. So keys to the car to it, let it drive my behavior, let it drive my words, my actions, my interactions, or take the keys out of the hands of that part of me and say, you're not old enough to drive yet, but I'll be with you. I'm going to put my arm around you. You're not alone. You get to ride with me, but you don't get to drive the car.
I love that. I love the way you're saying this, because I'm thinking about, parenting or running a team. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any difference. It's like whatever we do on everybody else.
Absolutely.
But I was thinking when you said about driving the car, I was thinking about the yield right away sign.
Yes.
It's like yield, pull off to the side, look at the mountain.
Oncoming traffic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whoa, because we have to slow down, that yellow, the red, yellow, green, the yellow says slow down, and then, so that we can let the other cars go by. So it's basically let the feelings, those heavy feelings go by and not be attached to them.
Yeah, but also don't lose the message.
Okay.
There's a message in it. There's a message, first you break the spell that, other people make me feel and you caused this and it's your fault. Okay. When we know that's not true, and I think most people know it's not true. They know that other people don't make them feel, but honestly, it can be deceptive, because the catalyst of how I feel and making it seem like it's the cause of how I feel are very like it's a nuanced thing. And it happens so fast that we go into the part of our brain that says, well, if it weren't for this, I wouldn't be having this experience. Therefore, it's the cause. But we recognize if there are 10 people in the room and this catalyst happened at the same time, we would all be having a different experience. So yes, it caused something in us, but it is not the reason for what is going on.
Okay, so I'm going to say it in the way I'm going to interpret this. So we use the word button. You push my buttons.
Okay? Sure, it's a trigger.
Yeah, the trigger. And I always say to everybody, it's never them, it's only me.
Yes.
There's nobody outside of me. It's my interpretation of what I heard.
Yes.
And so in the slowing down and what you're saying about the, how we interpret, and actually what is the lesson that we're getting from it, because we want to not throw it under the bus,
Correct. We don't want to throw it under the bus, because there's, there are a couple of different practices. One of the practices, if we want to talk about meditation, it really is like we go into that deep inner observer state of being where we can just see it all. And it's like, oh, there's this thought, it's at this vibrational frequency, and it's, oh, and then there's this one, that one's over here. And then there's this whole thing going on. We can just be like watching, from within, looking around and seeing all of this stuff in a focusing way, which is one of the practices that I like to support people with. Focusing doesn't go just to the place of simply being like watching all of it. It actually forms a relationship with it.
Okay.
so that there can be a sense of being like really curious, like what is going on for this something in me. And in that way, there's more of an interactive experience with these aspects of self that are presenting something for us to be with. And as we're with it, it actually creates that transformation.
So you bring up something that just hit me. And one of the things, when I created Standing Strong Together, the community building leadership training that you went through for 6 weeks, just 2 hours a week for those that are interested in it. What I realized is that I put it into a 5-star foundation. And I said, wait a second, what am I teaching? And I realized the first part of the star was to acknowledge the worth of self, because I had never done that before. I've always taken care of everybody else. And then the second point was how to acknowledge the worth of others. And the third point was how to build trust with compassion and love, to how to honor. And the fourth point was to how to have a voice so that I could share my dreams and I could be heard. And the fifth is to make a difference in our community, country, and world. We could do that in a minute or less with the power of this blue ribbon. But here's what I'm hearing.
Oh, beautiful.
My hearing is the one thing about me and two Excederans, okay? And then because that somebody's going to give you a pill for it nowadays.
Right.
Or we're going to be learning how to slow down. And I'll tell you one thing that pushed my buttons, and you could kind of give me an observation of judging ourselves, okay? And how we can kind of release that. I remember that I never wanted to be alone. I had to have people around me to tell me how great I was.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it. I made a lot of money. I got a lot of encouragement, but also because my husband didn't tell me he loved me, and I was kind of a broken puppy about that. When I left him, all I kept saying is, I don't know how to be alone.
Interesting. Yeah.
But meditating, I realized that I was saying that to myself a lot. And I eventually learned how to observe it so that really I was being one with myself. I was all one with me. But tell us more about how we judge ourselves and how we kind of use the meditation or any kind of way of slowing down so that we can see ourselves more clearly, so we can see it, with raising kids, with being.
Yeah. Well, we've got, it's almost like we've got this little tapestry going right now with each thread, kind of is building on another one. And when we look at observation without evaluation and stripping out all of our judgments of things, then we can just become the observer of that part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that wants to judge all the time. The Persian poet Rumi, right? Rumi said, there's a field over there beyond right doing and wrong doing, and I'll meet you in that field. So that field is the field beyond, the blame and fault, right? No fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. No fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. No fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. Well, we kind of live in a world where everybody's looking to see whose fault is it, who can I blame,
yes,
who's guilty, and shame on you. So when you live in that paradigm, that field over there that Rumi referred to is actually, it's unimaginable. So the field that we get to get over to that one Rumi talked about like so long ago, there has to be a way of just being an observer, that life is unfolding, and the way it's unfolding is it's so much like just, I have a few TED Talks. One of my TED Talks, I talk about being under a spell.
Okay.
And when you recognize that you have your own state of mind, your consciousness, and that the ways in which you see the world have been essentially spells that have been cast over you by your family of origin, their mindset, the way that they saw things, that it's almost impossible to break out of it, or so it seems. You don't even know that you're under a spell. It seems to be just so much the way it is. So the awakening is the awakening to the point of realizing, wow, I've been stuck in this like bandwidth, if you want to go back to the frequency, the vibration, the current, because our minds, of course, right? We have our mindset, which is almost like a radio station that we're tuned into, and we see the world through that station that we're tuned into.
Yes.
And the station we're tuned into to a certain extent is happened in spite of us. It really just happened in spite of us.
Yes.
And then at some point, you know, we start to like break out of that family of origin frequency enough to be able to even realize that we were in one. And that's when we begin to awaken from these patterns, whether it's rewards and punishments, whether it's seeing children as misbehaving and naughty, and it's about what you do to them and they've got to learn, and this idea that really you make people change their behavior, which I'm like, really? I don't think so. I mean, how good are you at making anyone change their behavior?
Yeah, you know, what you're saying is, and I often used to say that the way our society is and how we react is like dust on furniture. It just shows up everywhere. And I clean it up and it comes back. And it's always here. It's all that negativity, that energy that's focused. And then when we're graded in school, we mostly get graded on what we do wrong instead of what we do right. I don't know how it is today, but over the years, you know, there'd be a red pen on the top and said, I remember I was not a very good speller, and it said, get a dictionary. I read a poem and I'm an author today and everything else. And the whole poem, all it just said was get a dictionary. So I quit.
My gosh.
So I quit writing for years, and this was high school. We shut down the passion to dream and take risks and try. And I want to ask you a question. Being a Blue Ribbon ambassador now, how is the Blue Ribbon be a good guide for people to shift, given your experience? How would you explain?
Yeah, I love it. So who I am makes a difference. So this is, you know, when I look at the way I describe with parents and help them understand self-esteem, it's recognizing that so much of the words that they use and the framework that they create through the words that they use and the mindset that they have is to link children's sense of self, how good they feel about themselves, to their competency.
Yes.
Are they good at math? Are they good at reading? Are they good at writing? Are they good at school? You know, if they are good at subject matter topics, then they can feel good about themselves. Right. So it's confused, this idea of self-esteem being based on, I feel great about me, whether I'm good at mathematics or not.
Yeah.
My worthiness, my intrinsic sense of self-worth is not contingent on my competency. But this blue ribbon says who I am makes a difference. And it's a way, in my mind at least, where we start to bridge and break through this idea that it's not who I am makes a difference if I'm good at reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's who I am. Yes. It's my presence. It's my being and who I show up and be in that room, any day, on that street, on that road. I get to make a difference. And it's not because of competency. And I'm just, you know, I'm a little bit passionate about this because there are so many children who don't feel good about themselves because of competency.
Yes.
Some are natural students and they tend to feel really good, but they might also have their self-esteem very fragile. And they only feel good as long as they continue to outperform other people because their orientation also is with an external locus of causality. I feel good as long as I can exceed how good you're doing. I feel good based on you. This whole thing, I like to say, we got to burn that whole house down. That whole way of thinking is so destructive, hurts so many people, children and otherwise, adults and otherwise, where it's only as long as I'm better than you that I feel good about me.
You know, I hadn't thought about it quite like this before. You know, you know me well enough to know that every day I'm seeing the waitress, her smile made a big difference. And I run over to her and I honor her. She burst out crying and says, "You're the first person in 22 years that ever told me I mattered." The conversation that is about what we see so simply, and it really is tear-jerking.
It really is.
And I hadn't put what you just said together yet about the reading, writing, and arithmetic and all like that. And I think about my grandkids. I have 5 grandkids, and I was thinking about, they come home and did you get your homework done? And got too much homework, and now they all hate school anyway because they've been on, they've been home, and now everything's nuts, and they can't figure out anything, and they're smart, and they just like, what is
So tragic.
That's very tragic. Nobody knows what's education really mean.
Yeah.
Because it's an inner game, not an outer.
Absolutely. And if you are a socially prescribed perfectionist rather than a self-referenced perfectionist, one is the dysfunctional form and the other is the healthy form.
Would you slow down and say that, please, very much again?
Socially prescribed. Socially prescribed is I feel good about myself when other people feel good about me, or when I'm outperforming the person that sits next to me. Most schools are built on the idea of socially prescribed, and they reinforce it by taking the best kids in class and putting them up on stage and saying, now everybody look and see how good they did. And everybody, you should be doing as good as little Johnny or little Jane. And it's somebody sitting in the audience who's like, I'll never be as good as that person. And if that's what it takes to get on that stage, to be seen and heard and acknowledged and feel important, then I might as well just go hurt myself. Yes. Because I'll never be able to make that. So we set it up in ways in which it's not really about acknowledgement, it's about praise. And praise is poison pedagogy. Praise is about, when you meet my standards, I'll praise you. And acknowledgement is about, how do you feel about that? I can see that you feel chuffed. It looks like you feel really good about that. I admire blah, blah, blah. And it's completely different than praise, which is based on, I'm proud of you versus I'm proud for you. And so these two distinctions are massive, and we can drive a truck down the road talking about the ways in which we use language, which is, of course, what I do, right? I teach people how to communicate in healthy ways that don't build people fragile self-esteem based on competency, but build them a strong sense of self based on, I'm worthy of love and belonging, whether I'm good at that subject matter or not. So as long as my self-esteem is rooted in my intrinsic worthiness, my capacity to master this subject matter, maybe I'll be good at some of them, I probably will, but not all of them, because it's unlikely that I'm going to be the master of all of them. But I want to celebrate somebody else who's great at it. I can't do that when them being good at it threatens my self-esteem.
So let me just say, to take this into my life and how I'm listening to it, because what I noticed is that when I started honoring people, I didn't realize I was honoring myself also. I had a ribbon, and I say, I have a blue ribbon, and it says, who I am makes a difference, and I want to honor you. And I would honor the person and give them 2 extra ribbons and go home and go, I don't know why I'm feeling so good.
Beautiful.
I didn't understand how it was. I weighed this ribbon on a scale to say, I don't understand. You don't weigh anything, but how come you do that? I didn't realize that by my neediness for my loving, when I could love another person, I could begin to love myself, but it was mutual.
Yes, beautiful.
And I also want to say something about what you just said, because this is because I didn't know for a long time, because I'm a high school graduate, speaking all of a sudden to teachers in schools or people who have got master's degrees and so forth. And I had to always prove that I was educated enough, because if you didn't have those labels behind your name, it was like crazy lady with the ribbon. But here you are as a 3 times a TED presenter, yes? And what you gifted me, I'm going to say one more thing, and then you're going to tell me what this is like, and then I'm going to honor with you a blue ribbon, and we're going to find out how people can get in touch with you so that they can become, more inclined to know their own self-worth, the self-worth of their children, and have a whole new engagement of a communication that really rises. You bring to mind, I wrote a little book. It's called The Spirit of Excellence. You could put it in your palm, and it had 10 blue ribbons in it. And I wrote it in 30 days, and it had 152 spelling errors, and it's only a little 52-page book. So everybody that looked at it on my board of directors said, you can't give this book out. It's got a spelling error here, a spelling error there. I said, did anybody see the first line in the book? It said, I'm going to help children know that who they are makes a difference. That doesn't have a spelling error in that one sentence. Because of that, I stopped writing.
Mm.
What I think I hear you say is this. Wow, thank you for writing a book. And I want to honor you for, taking a risk. And so much in this book is wonderful. So much in you is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And then here's some people that can help you edit to get your word out. Like when you're parenting in a way that speaks to your children or your spouse or the people you work with or whatever, speak to me in that way. Share what you thought you heard me say so that they can learn from you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What I heard you say essentially was that our ability to connect past the mistakes in the book, past the spelling errors in the book, means that we aren't looking at what we call the presentation, and we're looking down below the surface to what and how we can connect. It's so enticing for us to stay at just the surface because it seems like that's where the action is. It seems like that's where the action is. Once you really know within your soul that the action's in here, and this is really the reflection.
Yes.
One of my favorite examples is if you imagine that you have something on your shoulder, and I'm not sure this will stay there. Oh, it is. Yeah. Now I see it over here. You probably do too. And I'm trying to move it over. I can't get it to move.
Right.
And that's what we do in life. Is we're looking at the reflection and we're trying to get the pen off our shoulder by manipulating the reflection over here, like the mirror.
Right.
When all we have to really do is go back to ourselves and do that, and then it's gone in our reflection. That is such a beautiful, simple way to reposition us to recognizing that if we don't like what we see out here, go back here.
Yes, it's perfect. I love what you say, because I used to say that we're really safe in our we're safe in our misery.
Yeah.
Negative quicksand is what's holding us down. We can't even breathe.
Yeah.
We're just swamped in it. And once we meet somebody like you or who sees us, it honors us, acknowledges the children, and just points to, wow, that's what's working. How lovely is that? And then a guide to how do we take that and help you potentialize? How do you rise to the level of your innate greatness? And it's the pause. That whatever we're doing, and that we're, like you say, when we're working off the wrong strategy or system of looking at, did I do that right? Did I get an A in school?
Yeah. It's that whole thing of my self-esteem is based on my GPA. This isn't to say that we don't have an innate sense of wanting to have mastery. We have an innate sense of wanting to have mastery. Right. But this is where, we look at the functional and the dysfunctional forms, the socially prescribed dysfunctional versus the mastery orientation, which is around self-reference perfectionism, self-reference being, I haven't been that good at spelling. I'm going to really apply myself. And wow, you know what? I did better this week. Maybe you didn't get 100%. Maybe you got 84. But I did better than I did before. And I can tell whatever I've been doing is working really well. And I'm getting in the right direction. And, the little train that could, I'm getting where I want to go. Because I want to be a really good speller. And I think I can do it. I think I can. I'm going to apply myself. And I'm not going to apply myself and feel good about it, whether I was better than Jane or John. But better because I did better than I did the week before. And I can see that my work and my application is really making a difference. And I'm going to stick to it because I feel so good about myself. So that's so healthy. And it's self-referenced. And when you have children that are self-referenced, adults that are self-referenced, they start doing this where they're comparing themselves to other, which we all know is like a horrible thing to do. Because sometimes you might be better and sometimes you're not going to be better.
I will not name the person. She's a dear friend of mine, but she started about the same time as I was doing the Blue Ribbons, and she started a program that's now global, and it's fantastic, and she's brilliant. And I was so jealous of her. And every time I would stand, I would hear her with crowd would be around her, and she would say all these articulate things, and I'd be off in a distance going, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. But she was doing it. And finally, it was driving me crazy. And she moved to San Diego, and she gave, 5 people big awards. She was and I was one of the people. Okay. And so, she acknowledged me, but I still didn't get my own self-worth because I was in competition with her. And so I called her up and I said, I have to tell you the truth. I said, I'm so, I judge myself with you. I compare myself with you all the time. And my body is hurting because of it whenever I'm around you.
Wow.
And I just said, I just have to tell you that. And she goes, okay, anything else? And I said, no, that's it. And she goes, okay, great, we're good. And I said, yeah, we're good. And that was it. I just needed to acknowledge it.
Call it out.
She did not tell me what I do or not. She just got it.
Totally. Yeah. And she was fine within herself, and she was okay loving you just the way you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. My dad used to say, I love you, warts and all. That's that experience of just being completely accepted for your flaws, just the way you are. You might have some good points. You're probably going to have some bad points. It's okay. We love you just the way you are. And that is really the secret sauce for our children to feel so accepted that they can completely accept themselves.
And you just said that, to be so completely accepted to ourselves that anything happens around us. Now, by the way, the model of be, do, have, Ram Dass said years ago when we were supposed to do something in order for us to have everything that we wanted to have, then we could be who we always wanted to be. And he said, no, that is reversed, it's not right. And then he told us to be, and then we could be who we always are. Then we could have, and then we could do what have. And I sat back and I remember saying, say what? Like all I know is doing. I'm a mother, I'm a housewife, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a do, and I don't understand what you mean about being. So I would like you to say, we're going to end this with you just telling us again from the being experience, because our self-worth is hooked on that. We hook our star on how we be. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that we all can imagine, not only for ourselves, but for our children and for other people, that, this idea of self-esteem is just so crucial. How I feel about myself determines pretty much everything, right? If I feel good about me, then I go out, I go and interact in the world, I show up.
Yes.
If I don't feel good about me, I hide and I shrink and I don't show up.
Yes.
And being competent and really good at something, if you can't even see how competent you are, then there's such a deficit in your self-concept.
Yes.
So I've known people, I'm sure you have too, that we admire so greatly and we think, oh my God, you're just amazing, amazing, amazing. But they can't see themselves as amazing.
No.
And so they live not from even other people's perception, but they live from self-concept. So self-concept is really big. Here's the thing that I know about using outer forms of discipline with children is that it's not enforcing their connection to themselves. It's all about what we're going to do to them, how we're going to treat them if they don't do what we want them to do. And so it trains the mind of the child to always be thinking about, okay, if I don't do that, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to feel good about that? Am I going to have something taken away from me? The mind is always focused on what's going to happen to me if I don't line up and do what they want me to do. Where consideration and the guidance approach to parenting is based on this idea of teaching children to be considerate of others. Consideration is me being able to think of you and what your experience is like. And then, oh, I didn't realize it was like that for you. I'll turn the music down, because they have an idea of how that felt for you.
Yes.
Now, that's teaching the mind of the child to be considerate of the other, not out of fear, not out of danger, not out of psychological lack of safety, but out of creating an atmosphere where there's lots of safety, and we're interacting and problem solving on the basis of understanding my needs and your needs, and, hey, how can I be considerate of your needs and also be considerate of my own? And that's the key. To teach children that they matter too, we have to be considerate of them as well, not just teach them to be obedient and compliant.
The reason why we have our intergenerational standing strong together is so that we all have a voice.
Yeah, I love it.
With the wisdom of everybody, and you bring to mind this this beautiful thing that a young girl, a high school girl, wrote to me, and she said this. She said, "I saw one of my friends in school open the door for an old lady, and I wonder why that happened. How did she just open the door for this old lady?" And she had been in our Blue Ribbon training program, and she came home and she said to her mother, she told her mother what she had seen, and her mother said, "Oh," she said, "because she lives upstairs from us and she just lost her grandma. So she probably stopped and said, 'Oh, that's like my grandma.' And she opened the door." And she said, "Oh, I see. I think I'll open the door for everybody that's a grandma too." And so when we reflect on what is
Beautiful story.
yeah, it's a beautiful, the simplicity.
Heartwarming. Yeah, the simplicity of, random acts of kindness, the simplicity of, and this is such a key thing you're bringing up here, because, and I learned this once, I learned it at a workshop where somebody said to me, if you ever get confused about why you make a contribution for someone else, if you think you're doing it for them, then don't kid yourself. Stop sharing, stop contributing, stop giving, and experiment with it and see how you feel by not doing those things. And that's how you learn that making a contribution to my fellow man feeds me.
Yes, it feeds us, and we, people like you and I, we are in workshops or we get trained by each other and other people all the time. I mean, this is an unfolding.
Absolutely.
We all don't know the whole landscape for sure.
Yeah.
But we can hear when somebody points it out to us, and we go, "That's something, gee, I wasn't aware of that."
Yeah.
So what we're really bringing in with what you're talking about, we're talking about conscious parenting revolution. Okay, so it's like a place in which we go, "Wait a minute, have I ever been conscious?" Well, I wasn't, certainly. I didn't even know about that. And now, how do I look at what I'm doing every day and look at it and reflect on that and say, what works about that? What could be improved upon that? And so I have a blue ribbon for you. I have a blue ribbon honoring for you. Katherine Celery, I have a blue ribbon. It says, "Who I am makes a difference. I would love to honor you. The precious woman that you are." I came to your 60th birthday party in Denver, Colorado, to the wonderful place in your home, to be with your family, to be in a kitchen that must have had 100 people eating there. I don't know how everybody was making food. Everybody was partying for your birthday. But the people that were there and the way your family is a pure reflection of everything you are. I got to witness that. You can't make that up. Everybody served each other. Everybody was empowering each other. We all had a blast. But everybody did it their own way. They made their own sandwiches.
That's right. Any way they wanted.
Anyway, and you cut make the cheese the way you wanted. It didn't make any difference, but there was enough room for people to come in and make the breakfast that they wanted or whatever sandwich they wanted, because it was that space of having fun and knowing that who we are does make a difference. You bring that to my heart, I feel such joy. Would you accept this gift from me?
Absolutely.
May I have permission to place it on you?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so this is virtual. It goes above your heart. I'll show everybody how that is. See that? It goes up. It goes above your heart, up toward all your, don't I love that so much?
I'm just going to put that on right now.
Hey, the other way. Go upstairs the other way.
This way?
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. There we go.
It's cut on an angle for like an airplane going up.
There we go. Yeah.
And it's tradition for me to take the spark from my heart and put it in the cheerleaders in this ribbon. It's the sound that makes dreams come true. And on the count of 3, we'll do it together. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Bing!
And every time you hear a bing, you'll know that the child within us just got our dream, because we are in a conscious community in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our neighborhoods, all over the world, one person at a time, being honored, knowing that we matter, and learning from great spiritually evolved, conscious people like yourself that I adore.
I adore you too, girl.
And
adore
now
you too.
I want to receive that. Just let me hold on to that. That is so cool. I learned how to receive, by the way. It took me a while to learn how to take that in without, throwing it away. And please let everybody know how to get in touch with you.
Yes. So Katherine, Katherine, Celery, Sellery.com. So there's KatherineSellery.com, or you can go to theconsciousparentingrevolution.com. And I do actually join my mailing list. I do a blog a week. I have all kinds of resources. We have our free ebook. We also have a lot of other videos and trainings and things like that. So depending on whether you just want a tip or two, or you'd like to have a deeper dive, join our private Facebook group, which is the tiny URL, I Love My Kid. And that's just a community where we support each other. And all of us are in this together, and we know everybody's doing the best they can. And we also know when we cross the river together, we go further than when we cross it alone. And so it really does. It makes such a difference to just have somebody else's back, because sometimes somebody needs to have your back.
We need each other to encourage every moment, so that we don't slide down the path. In the book I'm writing, Flat World, Round World, Out of This World, we are coming out of flat world, where just blame and shame and judgment and opinion and all that, separation, to a round world where we can all engage and just tell the truth and be vulnerable and just authentic and so forth, while we're building the future of our possibilities for our children, for ourselves, for the world. And then we fall into this out of this world, which is what we just experienced today with Katherine Sellery.
So beautiful.
Out of this world. And God bless you.
Love you, girl.
This will go on to the social media. I'll let you know when it goes on, and bless you. I'm going to say goodbye.
Love it. Love it.
So cool. Oh, this is
so good. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bing to everybody.
Bing.
Oh, yeah, that's too cool. Now I'm hitting there we go.
Hi, I'm Katherine Sellery, and a lot of people ask me, how did I get into this? And it started, of course, with becoming a parent. And our son was 2 years old, and my husband and I, both professionals, looked at each other and were like deer in headlights. And we just didn't even know what to do with discipline. And we were both really clear that we wanted something different than what we grew up with. And a lot of families don't know how to create something other than wash and repeat, where the patterns have been passed down transgenerationally since the beginning of time. And we didn't want to be in reaction to our past and go in a completely opposite direction. And we didn't want to duplicate it either. And there were, of course, some things that we wanted to get rid of, and there were some things that we wanted to keep. But primarily, we wanted to create children who were healthy and had a very strong sense of self and were independent and autonomous, and at the same time connected and knowing how to problem solve, so that everything was based in the sort of consideration as opposed to obedience and compliance.
Yes, retaliation, rebellion, resistance, all of it. Like it's gone. Like the 3 R's are freaking gone. Like it's such a blessing. And we started the program in June. So 90 days. So June, July, August. So in August, like things were really, really good. And like we still had a little bit, but whatever it was that you said earlier, I put something in the comments about you saying for every year that they're however old they are, for every year, it's like 1 week of healing that it takes. So we are just over the 16 years or the 16 weeks and implementing all the strategies, or I don't even know what you would want to call them, but it's, I don't know, our family's happy again. Like it's huge. Like, yeah, our family's happy again.
So great.
Yeah.
So beautiful. It's 1H. So just so everybody understands, thanks for popping that in because I don't always say it, but it is a lifeline for people who feel like it'll never be great again. And you've got, 15 and 16-year-old kids. So what that means is that the resentment flow that had been developed over many, many years.